Hey, Commander, what's your favorite color?
Gray.
What?
It's gray.
But pink is the best color.
Well, I disagree.
This is not an opinion.
No, Cotton, that is definitely an opinion.
You're an opinion.
That makes no sense.
One more thing. What?
Oh, sorry, am I interrupting?
What do you want, Candy?
Oh, I thought you were about to have a turf war.
We aren't monsters, Candy.
You are to me.
Ladies and gentlemen, as someone who was introduced to the Monster Hunter series with Monster Hunter World, I can honestly say that I overlooked how awesome certain things were when I first played the game. And looking back now, I would say the biggest thing was Turf Wars. Having played an old-style game now and having a much more extensive idea of the lore, I now understand just how impactful and downright awesome the Turf Wars as a mechanic actually are. But with a game as big as World, we actually have a ton of Turf Wars. So today, let's talk about the top 10 Turf Wars in Monster Hunter World.
Honorable mention, TEOSTRA and LUNASTRA.
This one isn't technically a turf war, so it felt a little weird to include it on the list itself. However, it is an interaction between these two monsters, and it is actually one of my favorite pure visuals in the entire game. So it also felt weird to not talk about it. Yeah, it's beautiful, and that's pretty much all you need to say about it.
Number 10, Enjanath versus Rathalos.
I have been chosen. Farewell, my friends. I go on to a better place.
This one is the first turf war in World that I actually remember seeing, and the reason for that is likely the same as the reason that it makes this list. It is super memorable. It is super impactful. This is more than likely the first turf war a player gets to see involving a tier 2 monster, and Rathalos absolutely kicks Anjanath's butt. He instantly knocks him over, pours some fiery salt on for seasoning, then picks him right up and tosses him away like he's nothing. It's such a simple animation, but it shows off a pretty accurate Rathalos fighting style as he trashes a monster who is simply beneath him by lore standards. I say by lore standards because in the actual game, Anjanath is supposed to be one of the first major markers in the story, one of those difficulty jumps. You see him tearing some shit up early on, and he is just way more imposing than any monster up to this point. So watching Rathalos throw him around like a dog playing with a towel is honestly just imposing as all hell, and it really sets up Rathalos in a fantastic light.
Number 9, LUNASTRA versus Nergigante.
When the Eater of Elders goes against the Scolder of Sons, you want to think LUNASTRA has a chance, but as with all things Elder, Nergi does win in the end, even if he does take some damage along the way. This turf war is a little bit similar to the Kashala versus Nergi turf war, and even more similar to the TEOSTRA versus Nergi turf war, with the main difference that puts this one on the list instead of those two being that LUNASTRA releases a supernova when she hits the floor, and I'd be amazed if anyone's gut reaction upon seeing that isn't Nergigante is toast. But he isn't. Nergigante barely even acknowledged it as part of the animation and just continues to press his dominance as he drags LUNASTRA's face across the floor. I love just how solidly Nergigante is presented as the dominant Elder Dragon in the new world. Sure, if we had let Xeno'jiiva roam free, I'm sure Nergi would have a bit of a tougher time, but as far as the more normal monsters go, Nergigante has got their numbers, and I am sure those numbers are used to call and invite them on dinner days, where they, of course, are the dinner.
Number 8, Diablos versus Black Diablos.
I need you to come with me.
Who the heck are you?
I just told you that. Listen, I'm from the future.
How dare you point at me?
You were pointing first.
Rude to point.
You're being very rude.
The classic story of two lovers headbutting each other until one of them throws the other on the floor, causing the loser to leave and spend the evening sleeping on the couch. Classic. There are three main reasons that this turf war really sticks out from the pack for me, one of which being that it is between two almost identical monsters. Like, imagine if Rathalos had a turf war with the Azure Rathalos, but then the second reason is the fact that it actually makes sense. A Rathalos and an Azure Rathalos don't really have a reason to fight, but Diablos, and of course Black Diablos as well, are notoriously aggressive and territorial, and even another member of their own species counts as an opponent if they look at each other the wrong way. It makes a ton of sense and totally perfectly fits the mindset of a Diablos. The third and final reason that I love this turf war then is that who wins is truly a coin toss. It's random, a 50-50 chance that either one of them could come out on top, because as I said before, they are almost the same monster. The ways that Black Diablos is more powerful than regular Diablos simply have no effect on this horn entanglement, and so this turf war is just a straight up battle of physical strength between two physically almost identical monsters, and that feeling of not knowing who is going to win still excites me a little bit when I see it to this day.
Number 7, DEVILJHO versus Good Boys.
Why didn't you just kill me?
Your punishment must be more severe.
This interaction gives me so much inner turmoil about its spot on this list. First off, I don't think it is technically considered a turf war, but considering the aggressive interaction between two monsters with an obvious victor and a ton of damage involved, I'm more than happy to include it on those merits alone. But then the real issue comes with not wanting to support Dodogama abuse. Seriously. As far as lore goes and just the general personality of DEVILJHO, this entire mechanic is incredible. I would say that, in fact, it is arguably the greatest example of Monster Hunter World's engine really allowing a monster's pre-existing personality to shine even brighter and be made more clear. As far as visuals and actual cinematicness of the event though, it's very, very basic, and that is why it falls this far down. If this was a list of the most interesting mechanics in World, this would probably be fighting for number 1. But as a turf war, I have to put it down lower simply because of the cinematic masterpieces that we have ahead of us. Also, I'm still honestly pretty salty that it picks up Dodogama like a chew toy.
Number 6, VALHIZAK versus ODOGARON.
This turf war was almost guaranteed to be on this list from the moment of its very inception. As the only turf war between an Elder Dragon and a non-Elder Dragon, it has the significant advantage of being one of the most unique interactions in the game. But it still doesn't really need that, because the turf war absolutely stands up on its own. Starting with ODOGARON leaping on top of VALHIZAK and ripping at the layer of skin atop his neck, it looks as though an upset might just happen. After all, ODOGARON is one of the most agile and aggressive monsters in the game. If there was a single non-Elder Dragon in the base game that could contend with an Elder Dragon, maybe it is? No. As if it was never in question, VALHIZAK exudes a stream of effluvium and ODOGARON just passes the fuck out instantly. ODOGARON starts the interaction acting exactly as ODOGARON should. Quick and aggressive Val acts exactly as Val should. He takes his time, slowly waiting, biding his efforts, and then just effortlessly using miasma to decimate the muscle puppy. It just fits both of them so perfectly, and there's nothing really negative to say about it.
Number 5, PAOLUMU versus ODOGARON.
That's right, it's an ODOGARON double feature with good boys back to back, but in this turf war he absolutely is not a good boy, unless you judge the goodness of boys by their ability to absolutely murder something, which I don't. Right from the start, PAOLUMU tries to stand toe-to-toe with this roaming beast, and for the first couple of swipes, he does manage it, being the ever-agile balloon monster that he is, and while he doesn't land any hits himself, he also avoids being attacked, that is, until Odo decides, fuck this, and leaps for his inflated throat, grabs him mid-air, and uses his own weight to slam him onto the floor. He holds him in place for as long as it takes to damage the hell out of his air sac, and then he just brutally tosses him along the floor while he deflates. It fits both of their personalities wonderfully, but more than that, it is just incredibly cinematic to watch. And honestly, it's pretty vicious, which makes it fit ODOGARON just that much more.
Number 4, PAOLUMU versus LEGIANA.
I'm a tango man myself.
Poor PAOLUMU getting pounded twice in a row, but hey, what can I say? Apparently PAOLUMU makes for an extremely beautiful beatdown target, which considering the inflato sack and air shenanigans does make a lot of sense. Now this one is much less about physically overpowering a creature, in fact significantly less, and that is the main reason that I like this one. Considering both of these monsters can fly, they start on slightly even ground, or lack thereof. But because the LEGIANA is so much better at the whole flying thing, it literally flies a circle around PAOLUMU that totally dazes him, only to wind up directly above it. Now, if you've ever seen an animal documentary or even a Star Wars movie, you know that the high ground is pretty damn advantageous. From here, LEGIANA just precisely swoops its claws around the inflated air sac of the PAOLUMU and uses pure wing flapping and momentum to toss this sad little bat mouse creature right down to the floor, where he deflates and falls over defeated. I'm sorry, PAOLUMU, maybe you'll be on the winning side of some turf wars at Iceborne, hey?
Number 3, DEVILJHO versus BAZELGEUSE.
Alright, let's set the stage properly for this one. Two extremely aggressive invaders known for their ability to absolutely just destroy and ruin any hunt that they show up in. Finally meeting each other for the first time. Well, how else could you possibly start this turf war than by having both of them enrage and glow like the badass monsters they are? What follows is DEVILJHO showing off his classic DEVILJHO style and just diving his mouth directly at Basil's neck. And as the crazy predator he is, he pulls it off and holds the Basil above his head to give him less leverage to fight back. Basil, being Basil and enraged, however, starts dropping armed scales on the floor, which of course caused Joe to flinch in this beautifully weaved tale of their mechanics intertwining. Joe then, being the stubborn, aggressive bastard that he is, fucking jumps to take BAZELGEUSE out of the air by the throat again because he don't learn, he just eat. Thinking of course the solution is to pin him to the ground instead, what DEVILJHO doesn't realize is that BAZELGEUSE's neck is just covered in these fucking explosives, and as such, he takes a massive blast directly to the face. Now, don't get me wrong, Basil takes a ton of damage from the bites as well, and this turf war is officially labeled as a tie. But the fact is that Joe pretty much did all of that damage to himself by ignoring Basil's main and obvious monster mechanic, and him ignoring that perfectly fits the personality of a DEVILJHO. And on top of all that, this is just such a breathtaking cinematic experience to watch, so it really is hard to put many things above this, except...
Number 2, DIABLOS versus RATHIAN.
I know, as far as the monsters involved, this should in theory be one of the most basic turf wars possible, right? Well, wrong. Rathian starts by hitting her classic triple fireball attack, and the DIABLOS, realizing the elemental threat, actually immediately digs underground, which put into perspective is a pretty intelligent thing for a wild animal to do, though whether it is actually thinking of defense or just thinking of offense is up for debate, as the DIABLOS nearly instantly pierces the ground under the Rathian and grabs her with his horns. Now, at first glance, it might just look like he's somehow picking her up and she's not just flying away for some reason, but if you look a little closer, you can tell that the DIABLOS has actually managed to catch one of her legs between his horns, from which point he uses his physical prowess to just swing her around mid-air with nothing but his head, while she struggles hopelessly to escape, only to be body slammed to the floor through pure physical strength from a position of terrible leverage while mid-air. Put simply, the raw power required to move that Rathian from the air down to the floor from the position that DIABLOS was in would be incredible, which of course perfectly fits DIABLOS. Then, as if this spectacle wasn't quite enough, when the Rathian does get up after the knockdown, it is only in response to the animation of the DIABLOS going in for a full-on belly horn pierce, an actual finishing blow attack. That's right, this turf war carries on after the down that is caused by the turf war itself. Sure, maybe it's just a unique standing up animation, but honestly, at least for me, this adds so much to the turf war, a turf war where both monsters have already given us so much already.
Number 1, DEVILJHO versus DIABLOS.
Okay, this entire time I've been talking about cinematic visuals and beautiful spectacles, but this turf war being number 1 is proof that substance overturns flashy graphics any day of the week. Two of the physically strongest monsters in the new world, virtually unchallenged any other day of the week, and in fact, this is the only turf war in world that DIABLOS loses. Well, the only one except the one where another DIABLOS wins. Right from the get-go, DEVILJHO enrages and his blood heats up, so you know he means business, but no one, and I mean fucking no one, could expect what comes next. The DIABLOS, of course, goes for his normal attack strategy, horns in front, headbutt grapple, but DEVILJHO pulls out this pinpoint accuracy and grabs this unlucky son of a bitch around his horn. That's right, while the DIABLOS is charging his head directly into him, DEVILJHO manages to get his face perfectly around the base of the horn, and DEVILJHO, being DEVILJHO and giving no shits about a long drawn-out fight, just flips him over his head and down onto the DIABLOS' own head, guaranteeing a horn break. Guaranteeing seeing a horn break on a Diablos. A Diablos horn. There's just no words for how awesome this turf war is to me. It establishes just how powerful invading monsters are. It shows both of them being exactly who they are, and it's just such an impactful event that it guarantees a part break on one of the most dangerous parts in the entire game. It's just glorious from start to finish, and the fact that this much excitement is managed to be packed into one of these shortest turf wars in the game as well is just the cherry on top. I've been Cotton Dinosaur, and these have been the top 10 turf wars in Monster Hunter World. Do you agree with my choices? What turf wars do you think will be the best in Iceborne? Like if you liked the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet. This is the brand new outro to tell you all the things that you do that we love, so let's start with something simple and say, oh, we love your eyes when they're watching us play video games, when we make a bunch of jokes that are kinda lame, or when they gaze upon our failures as we try to kill the monsters or important news about the kingdom Animalia. Rage, Content, and Hollow are all here, talking about the things you want to hear, so if you want to be the first to hear, like and subscribe and the bell and we'll cheer. Some of you are patrons even though we are all the noobs and you're the pros. There's nothing we can do to thank you. No, really, there's nothing we could possibly do. Goodbye.